welcome back to Miami Today. Joining us now is Dr. Becker from the University of Miami, or from Miami University. Welcome, Dr. Becker. So you teach media studies, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people are wondering, how do you study media? Do you want to maybe explain a little bit about how you study media?
Here at Miami, we've actually just made a pretty significant redesign of the media programs. So we've created a new department called the Department of Media, Journalism, and Film, which brings together various media-related programs like journalism, media and culture, strategic communication, and film, and brought them together into one department. So the problem with media and getting students interested in studying media is it's such a vague term, right? It could include and covers lots of different things. So these different programs, if you're interested in journalism and journalism writing, you could be a journalism major. If you're interested in television production and other kinds of video production, you could become a media and culture major. If you're interested in the field of public relations, strategic comm is probably good. If you're interested in analyzing film studies would be a great option. So each of those programs you tend to do similar but also very distinct kinds of activities. Take different classes, get involved in different kinds of production experience. We also have a lot of student organizations like the radio station, where if you're into radio production, you can join that and actually produce radio shows. There's student film groups that are into making film productions. So there's lots of options.
Wow.
So piggybacking on to that question, what made you decide to go into media studies?
Yeah, when I was an undergrad, I was an English major, and I studied sort of modernist poetry. And I ended up actually, for a variety of odd reasons, getting a master's degree in Scandinavian languages and literature. I don't know if anybody speaks Swedish. I kind of speak Swedish. But when I was living in Sweden doing research, I realized my interest in literature, and especially poetry, was kind of waning. But I was fascinated by the ways in which in Sweden, American media was so popular, and the ways in which they interacted with American culture through the TV shows and films they watched. So when I came back to the United States after that, I explored graduate programs that would study media. And I found it fantastic to take the skills that I had learned when I studied literature, how to analyze texts very carefully, to think about the ideas and values that sort of books and poems would have, but apply those skills to studying something that I was a huge consumer of, which is television and film.
And where did you attend graduate school?
I went to the University of Wisconsin in Madison.
Okay. And how long have you been a faculty member here at Miami University?
This is my 10th year here at Miami.
And another question about being a faculty member here, how is it? Do you enjoy working with the students here? How are the other faculty members, the environment in general?
Yeah, it's great. The longer I'm here, the more I realize how well suited Miami is for me as a faculty member. I always say when we hire new faculty members and they ask what are the students like, I always say the students are extremely dutiful and take their role as students seriously. And as a teacher, that's great, because I know that most students will come to class prepared most of the time, which is somewhat unusual, and it makes teaching class so much better and more productive for everybody, not just for me, but the students get so much more out of it when they themselves and their peers come prepared and are engaged with the material. I think that's probably one of the best parts. It's also great that it's a bigger school. It's not a tiny liberal arts school, but so that gives students and me as a faculty member lots more opportunities than if I were at a really small liberal arts school. But unlike where I went to the University of Wisconsin for undergrad as well. Unlike that kind of big research school, the kinds of relationships I can have with students here are much different. I have much more one-on-one time with students who seek me out than I would have at a large place like Wisconsin, or I suppose here Ohio State would be the best comparison.
And my final question would be, what advice would you have for a student considering going into the media studies field or a similar field?
I would say be ready to take advantage of all of the different production opportunities, and to understand that there's two kinds of courses in the media majors. There's the courses where you produce media. You learn how to make television shows, you learn how to edit film together, things like that. And there's courses where you study those critically. You would study television narratives, history of media. And I would say take really get involved in both and understand that both and working in both is going to pay off in the long run.
This is something I've been wondering. So in today's Swedish culture, would prominent figures in the media, such as Anderson Cooper, would they know about him in Sweden?
Yeah, that's a good question. I had one of my good friends, I had been in Sweden in the early 90s, and then I made several good friends, and one of them came over maybe 10 years later in the early 2000s, and it was interesting. I was surprised to learn that they get the Daily Show every day.
Oh, wow.
And most Swedes can speak English fluently, better than many Americans. And what was amazing is that a show even as culturally complicated as The Daily Show, where it's all about the intricacies of US politics and culture, with this sort of ironic humor, they got completely right. So it made I was completely aware, or it made me aware of how fully informed they are about American society. So I would say probably Anderson Cooper they would know, especially if he was interviewed on The Daily Show or they get the Colbert Report as well.
So one more question, actually. So would you say that the Swedish are better informed than most European countries on American politics?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I don't know enough about the rest of Europe to make any conclusions about that. Certainly because Scandinavians in general, Swedes in particular, have such a high degree of English knowledge and education. They begin studying it in 3rd grade. I suspect that they have as much knowledge about American politics and culture as any country in Europe. Whether it's more, I'm not sure.
Thank you so much for joining us, Doctor. And stay tuned for Dr. Elizabeth Zimmerman, who will be joining us right after the commercial breaks.
Thank you.